Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Siege War for Cybertron trilogy leader class Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. As always, we'll take a quick look at the packaging and then we'll take an extremely detailed look at the figure himself. Like with all of the Siege for Cybertron figures, we have a fantastic piece of artwork which symbolizes what the figure would look like in a very artistic, stylized image. Turning to the back of the packaging, we actually have quite a few product images. The first product image is of course the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime with the cannons and the jet wing. Then the other image is Optimus Prime without the armor, and then it showcases him in the truck mode without the trailer section, and then finally it showcases him with the trailer with all of the guns. And here we have the leader class Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime in his alternate form. Now originally when this figure was announced, I wasn't necessarily too hyped about it, seeing as it was very similar to that of the Galaxy Force Optimus Prime from the original Transformers Cybertron toy line. This figure is essentially a remake of that toy, and considering I never actually picked up that particular figure, it was definitely nice to get this remake. Starting off with the figure in his truck mode, as you can see he is this very stylized type of Cybertronian truck, with this section here looking like it is some kind of armored trailer. I really do like some of the details on it, particularly in the front of the cab section. I'm a massive fan of the transparent clear blue plastic that they've used for the windows. It really does make it look very realistic, and it definitely does improve the overall look of the vehicle mode. I really like this kind of grille section. You will see later on that these pieces here actually form the armor for the robot mode, and it is a really nice use of using parts in order to help aid the vehicle form. All of the hubcaps on the vehicle mode have been picked out in a really nice silver paint deco, and this figure here is actually painted really well. Taking a look at the figure's cannons, as you can see there is some fantastic sculpting and detailing. We've got some details of mechanical components such as gears and pistons, and I really do like how they've used the black and silver paint in order to pick out some details such as air vents. The cannons are in fact asymmetrical, so they are very different from one another. This one is slightly longer than this particular one, considering that this section here is actually removable. This one seems more like it's a heavy powered type of weapon, but once again there is still some fantastic detailing. The back of the trailer section, you've also got some nice silver paint applications, and when you turn to the back of the figure, you can quite clearly make out that the figure's feet are actually on the back. However, in hand it isn't nowhere near as noticeable as it would be on camera. It is a really nice looking truck, and I do like how all of the cannons do in fact plug onto it. It definitely does look really armored up, and it really does create this illusion that Optimus Prime is upgraded and looks absolutely fantastic. And now for some comparisons, here is the brand new Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime compared to the Siege Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Now initially, before I actually got the Optimus Prime figure in hand, I did actually think that these figures were just basically exactly the same with a few paint variations. However, I am pleased to confirm that actually having these figures in hand, this Galaxy Optimus Prime is actually a lot different from this Ultra Magnus figure and merely shares some design cues, particularly in the cab section. However, this whole trailer section here is completely brand new. There are some very slight similarities, particularly in the leg sections, but the guns and the way the wings form is a completely different transformation than how the trailer section forms for Ultra Magnus. Just showcasing them, as you can see, you can definitely pick out some similarities in the truck mode. Unfortunately, they still haven't fixed this gap section here, and the cab section is definitely where I think the most similarities lie. The positionings of the arms when transformed are very, very similar, as well as the front kind of visor of the truck. They do look very, very similar. However, as you can see, the actual trailer sections are vastly different, and I have actually found myself liking the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime a lot more than the Ultra Magnus. I didn't necessarily think that the Ultra Magnus figure transformed too fluently. However, I can say that the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus has a definitely very fluent transformation, and everything clips in fairly nice. In terms of scale, they are roughly exactly the same length in terms of scale, so they are definitely a very good leader class scale. If anything, the Galaxy Optimus does appear to be ever so slightly shorter than the Ultra Magnus figure. However, when I get into robot mode, you will see that they are more or less the exact same height. So for a leader class comparison, they definitely scale really well with each other. For another comparison, here is the Siege Leader Class Shockwave compared to the Ultra Magnus and Optimus Prime figure. Now here we have all three of the leader class figures to be released for the Siege for Cybertron toy line, and upon having all three of these figures in hand, it is rather strange to me to see that every one of these figures seems to have some kind of armored up gimmick. Shockwave uses his additional parts in order to help aid his robot mode, as well as Ultra Magnus and Optimus Prime. Upon comparing the length of Shockwave to the Optimus Prime figure, once again in terms of length, they are more or less exactly the same. However, the Optimus Prime figure definitely has a lot more plastic than Shockwave, and if you were to remove the additional parts that Shockwave does in fact come with, he would be significantly shorter than the Optimus Prime figure. And for one final size comparison in vehicle mode, here we have the Galaxy Upgrade Leader Class Optimus Prime compared to the Voyager class Siege Optimus Prime. Now as you can see, this is a great leader class and Voyager scale. The Optimus Prime Voyager figure is about the same size as the actual cab section of the truck of the Galaxy Force Optimus. It is really only the trailer that is very elongated and actually makes this particular figure a leader class. In terms of comparing the aesthetics, as you can see, the Galaxy Optimus Prime is definitely a lot more stylized in this particular version. I must say though, I am slightly liking the Voyager class Optimus Prime in his truck mode. I definitely think that it does a lot better of a job in kind of making it look very alien. This one to me in vehicle mode kind of looks more like a kid's toy. It doesn't necessarily look like it's supposed to be on the hard, worn, torn streets of Cybertron, whereas I definitely think this version does. If you could utilize the back section and the trailer and the guns and plug it onto this figure, it would definitely make this figure the perfect Optimus Prime for your siege display. Now, as you saw on the packaging, this figure actually has a second alternate mode, and that is essentially without having all of these additional parts. In order to do this, I'm actually going to split this trailer section into all of its individual components so that we can prepare it for the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime in the robot mode. To begin with, you're going to want to remove these big black cannons, which are exactly the same molds as we got with the Ultra Magnus figure. You're going to want to fold these wing sections back, and as you can see here, there is a kind of clip system. What I tend to do is unclip this section here, and then take this and shift it forward, untab it just like so, and fold it backwards, then turn it around to this side, and do the exact same process. So essentially untab it, and then pull it away, and snap that off. What you can then do is essentially just pull this entire cab section off, and here you have the base Optimus Prime figure. What you'll then want to do with this particular section is essentially split it into its individual components. Now, moving these cannons out of the side, as you can see here, these sections here are actually these blue clips that actually plug onto this grey section. So in order to remove them, you're going to essentially want to take this whole section here and shift it upwards and pull it down. So just take this section, lift it up, and it will come away from the leg sections. These two plugs here do actually plug into the base of this, much like the Ultra Magnus figure. So just simply pulling these apart will separate the kind of main wing pack with the guns away from the legs. Now, what we want to do for the legs is essentially just separate them, and then inside the legs is actually the shoulder pieces that you'll plug onto Optimus Prime when you fully armor him up. They are just simply removed just like so. You just pull this section out of the way, and then set these aside to prepare for the robot mode. Coming to this section now, you're going to want to fold out the wings. This whole section here, you're going to want to fold these sections forwards, just so you can push this section all the way backwards. So just take this, pull that down, and make sure that these nub sections here stay folded down, and then take this and fold it all the way down. And as you can see, there is a slot there that this tab here will actually tab into. So snap that into place, and then fold these sections backwards. Rotate it around now, fold the head out, and then this chest armor section will in fact fold out. We can take the wings and fold them to the back just like so. Pull off this silver turret section, and there you have this section ready for the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. And here you have Optimus Prime in his truck mode without all of the extra pieces. Now, this particular mode for me is definitely not a favourite. As you can see, you have the very untidy hands and forearm sections that sit out towards the back, and you can definitely make out that these are the shins and feet of the figure, as they too just hang out. It is very similar to the Ultra Magnus figure, and it really doesn't look very aesthetically good. If I were to ever display this particular figure in its vehicle mode, it would never be like this. It would always be with the extra kind of trailer section with the guns. I definitely think that that looks a lot better than what we have here. However, nevertheless, it does roll fairly nicely. All of the wheels do kind of roll, especially if you put a tiny bit of friction on the back of this section, you will get all of them to roll. And there is some nice detailing, however, nothing more than we really saw when we had the extra trailer section placed on. And for comparison, here we have the Ultra Magnus figure without all of the additional trailer pieces. As you can see, they are very, very similar. The front sections don't look too similar, however, the actual kind of molding process looks very, very similar. You've got the fists that hang out at the back. These sections here are also very similarly placed. You've got the same gap. I do believe that the wheels are exactly the same and the leg sections are exactly the same. So there are definitely glaring similarities there. And they do actually clip onto their trailers very similarly. So you could probably put the trailer from this onto this Optimus Prime and vice versa with this Optimus onto Ultra Magnus. They really don't look very good in this particular mode. If I had to say which one looked better, I'd probably say the Ultra Magnus figure. I just think that the more white with less blue looks a lot better than this kind of, I don't know, I just really don't like the look of this particular cab. It to me looks very cartoonish and more like it belongs in a child's collection. And very quickly comparing the Leader class Optimus Prime to the Voyager class Siege Optimus, as you can see without all of the additional pieces, they are more or less exactly the same size. If anything, the Voyager is actually longer than the Optimus Prime from the Leader class assortment, and they are very different in terms of their styles. It would have been nice to have seen them perhaps take some design cues from this particular release, as I am actually quite a big fan of how this grille section sits up on the top, and I really do like the transparent clear type of plastic that they use for the windows. as opposed to the darker blue that they used on this version. Don't get me wrong, I definitely think it looks nice. However, if I had a preference, I would definitely go with the Voyager class figure any day. Now turning to the actual transformation of this particular figure from this mode into his robot mode, it is actually fairly simplistic. What you're going to want to do is come to the back section and just unpeg these and fold them down. They are on some very nice ratcheting joints. We can then take the heel spurs and fold them out also, just to give the figure some more support. What you can then do is take the arm sections now and just kind of bring them out just like so to allow for some extra clearance. You can take this section and rotate it all the way around. Now these pieces here are actually removable. We will once again set these off to the side when we actually armor this Optimus Prime up, as they don't really play a role in the standard Optimus Prime robot mode. We can then take this section here and line that up and shift this all the way up just like so. Opening this section here will just simply reveal the Optimus Prime head sculpt. So fold that out, snap that into place just like so, snap the arms in. Also take this section here and launch it back just like that, and then fold the wrists around. And there you have the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime in his standard robot mode. And here we have Optimus Prime in his standard robot mode. Now there's nothing necessarily bad with this particular release. It does have all of the elements that makes an Optimus Prime design Optimus Prime. However, it is rather clunky and it doesn't look very sleek nor agile, much like the Voyager class version, which we'll bring out a comparison for in a minute. As you can see, he's very bulky and broad up the top, which actually does look pretty nice. However, it is a shame that the legs are rather skinny. They definitely do contrast each other quite poorly, and they don't make for a very sleek nor realistic looking design. Starting off with details, I do think he has a really nice looking Optimus Prime head sculpt. I will do a comparison with the Ultra Magnus figure in a minute. We do have some yellow paint picked out for the eyes, which I would have preferred a kind of blue colour. However, I do believe that this does harken back to the Transformers Cybertron figure. As you can see here, we've got the truck windows, which do also look rather nice. However, I wish they'd gone for perhaps a lighter shade for the plastic windows. We've got some nice silver paint applications, as well as some very nice detailing on this crutch section. Arms too have been detailed fairly nicely. However, they do look rather bulky when compared to the rest of the figure. However, that is to, of course, aid the armor when he is in his fully armored up alternate form. But nevertheless, it does look like a fairly decent Optimus Prime figure. However, definitely not one that will be the holy grail of your collection. In terms of articulation, the head sculpt is on a really good ball joint. It can look down that far as well as up that far. It can also nod side to side as well as rotate left to right. The arms can rotate the full 360 degrees as well as hinge out to the sides just like so. There is a 360 degree rotation just above the elbow with a 90-degree bend at the elbow. The wrists can also rotate 360 degrees, and there is a 360-degree waist joint, which is fantastic for posing, particularly when he is fully armored up. As I stated, the legs are on ratchet, so they can ratchet forwards that far, as well as back quite a way, which is great to see, and he can also do the splits to a considerable amount. I would have definitely liked it if they could have perhaps added some ratchets for the outward movement. As you'll see when we get him fully armored up, the legs do become quite heavy, which does actually cause some problems in terms of posing. And then finally, the feet do actually have ankle pivot, which is actually quite surprising to see on this particular release, as I wasn't necessarily expecting it. So overall, for articulation, it is actually reasonably good. And of course, for comparison, here we have the Optimus Prime compared next to the Ultra Magnus figure. As you can see, once again, there are glaring similarities between these particular figures, considering that they both share very similar molds and engineering is almost identical on the base figure. As you can see, the Ultra Magnus figure also has a very broad upper torso section, with the arms being a lot larger than the leg sections. I do believe that the legs on these particular releases are exactly the same, as are the forearm sections and the wrists. I'm not entirely sure about these particular sections, however they do too look very similar. The head sculpts upon comparing are exactly the same, so it really is just this cab section here that they've changed up. Upon turning them around, as you can see, they do have very similar kibble distributions. However, I think that this one clears up a lot better than this one. This one definitely seems to be rather obtrusive, probably because it is a completely different colour than the rest of the figure, whereas the grey I think works a lot better on the Optimus Prime. If I had to choose out of the two, I would still once again go with the Ultra Magnus figure. I do prefer the white colour when compared to this, and I really do like the chest design on the Ultra Magnus figure rather than the Optimus Prime. Nevertheless, they are both really good, and they do look rather good in their robot modes when stood next to each other. For one final robot mode size comparison, here we have the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime compared next to the Siege Voyager class Optimus. Now there really isn't no contest here whatsoever. The Voyager class Optimus definitely wins in terms of the appearance in the robot mode, as it really should do, as this one doesn't actually have to combine with additional pieces. However, once again, I do prefer the aesthetic on this particular release. It really would have made the ultimate Optimus figure if they would have taken this as the base mold and simply adjusted this to combine with the extra pieces. However, seeing as this particular figure is supposed to be a remake of the Galaxy Force Optimus Prime from I believe 2004-2005, I can definitely understand their choices in design. Now of course, the main event that we've all been waiting for is the fully transformed and combined Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. Now in order to prep the base figure for the combination mode, what you're going to want to do is to simply take the arms and unpeg them, and then take this whole chest section and just pull it forwards, and then push the head back into its cavity and collapse it in just like so. What you'll then want to do is turn your attention to the back now, take this section and slide it all the way down until it clips into place just like that. We're then going to want to take the heel spurs and fold them in also just like so. We can then bring in the additional armor sections for the feet. Now as you can see here, there are two clips in there that this clip here will tab onto. There is also an additional tab. This tab here will in fact plug into this slot here just to solidify the connection. So just snap that into place, and it really does stay on there very securely, as you will see when we get into the articulation segment. Then you will take this other section here and do exactly the same process on that one. We're definitely beginning to build up the height of this particular figure. We can then take these pieces. Now as you can see here, there is a slot that is a lot slimmer than the circle section, and what you're essentially going to want to do is just plug them into the forearms. So just take this and snap that in, lift this section outwards, and then take this one here, fold that section out and tab that in just like so as well. We can then take these sections here, and as you can see, they do have a plug as well as a port. Now the port is supposed to actually house the smokestacks, and the plug will actually plug into the slots on top. So just take this and line that up and then snap that into place as well. They've got some really nice looking Autobot emblems on them, which looks fantastic. And now we can take the massive section which houses the wings and the gun, the chest section as well as the head. What you're going to want to do here is there are some clips that when you spin this around will actually snap onto the back of this section. So take this and just clip that into place just like so. And then when you fold this down, these two tabs here will plug into these two slots here. So take that and snap that into place. A transformation step that I forgot to point out is a very slight one. If you wish to have these lights slightly more noticeable in the upgraded mode, you simply just have to pull this section forward, flip it around just like so, and tab it into place. And you have the lights enlarged and a lot more predominant in this particular robot mode. And there you have the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime fully completed, looking absolutely awesome. And here we have the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime in his fully armored up form, looking absolutely fantastic. Now out of all of the modes, I definitely think that this is definitely the best mode, and really does have some great design similarities to the original Galaxy Force Optimus Prime that, as I stated, was released as part of the Transformers Cybertron 2004 toy line. As always, we'll take a look at details and then we'll go over the articulation. As you can see, for details, I really am a massive fan of the head design that they've gone with this particular figure. It definitely does capture the look of Optimus Prime. However, with this very stylized aesthetic, I really like how the antennae sections kind of flare out a lot more, making it look like he almost has some type of samurai armor on. I also definitely really like this chest piece. It is a lot better than the normal chest section that we saw in the standard alternate form. I really like some of the silver dry brushing on it as well to make it look as if though it has been weathered. The wings too have got some nice sculpting and detailing on, and I like the silver paint to kind of give the illusion that these are the exhausts. These wheels are unfortunately faux, they do not rotate whatsoever. However, Hasbro haven't been too cheap and have actually painted the hut caps a silver colour to make them look quite realistic to the rest of the figure. Taking a look at the figure's guns, like we discussed in the vehicle mode, these have been detailed fantastically well, and they really do look really awesome when placed onto the figure. I like how these sections plug onto the forearms. It makes it look like he has even more firepower coming out of these, and the legs are very similar to the Ultra Magnus figure, which we'll take a look at in just a second. They do have some nice detailing on them as well. And another added bonus that we get is we actually get additional heel spurs. Now you can in fact fold these out, however I haven't really found a use for them as the figure is more heavy towards the front than he is the back. However, it's definitely a nice inclusion, and these have some detailings of what looks to be flight landing gear, which is quite obscure when compared to the rest of the figure, but it is nice to see that there is some detailing on them nevertheless. In terms of articulation, just simply rotating the guns all the way around to the back will allow me to demonstrate the articulation on this arm, but the head is on a ball joint and actually has a greater range of movement than the original head, so it can look down that far, as well as up that far, as well as nod side to side. It can also rotate the full 360 degrees. The wings are on hinge joints, so they can flare forwards and backwards. If you haven't got the guns there, they can fold all the way back. With the wings protruded, you cannot unfortunately get a full 360 degree rotation out of the arm. It does bump into the wings and it does kind of stop it from doing that full 360. However, the arms can still rotate to quite a far degree, and they can also rotate the full 360, as well as a bend at 90 degrees, and there is a 360 degree wrist swivel. Despite having the guns implemented into the figure, you can still utilize the waist joint, which is absolutely fantastic, as you can get this figure looking as if though he is mowing down the Decepticons in the battlefield with his really heavily powered arm cannon. The legs can also ratchet out to the front that far, as well as ratchet back about that far before they bump into the cannons. They can hinge out to the side. However, I really wish there was a ratchet joint, as you can see they are rather loose and it doesn't take much to knock them out of joint. There is also that knee joint that we saw in robot mode, as well as some ankle pivot, which is great to see, and it is quite a deep ankle pivot joint, so you could probably get this figure in an extremely large stance. However, due to the lack of an outwards ratchet, he does tend to just flop, which is such a shame, as it would have been great to have got this figure into some more dynamic pose. Now, turning to this smaller weapon, it can actually plug into the barrel of this particular gun so that it looks even bigger and even more menacing as a gun, and it really does complete the look of the gun and make it look rather different when compared to this one. These two black guns that Optimus comes with can also be used in his hands, or alternatively, much like Ultra Magnus, you can in fact plug them into the slots on either side of his legs, just to help aid storing them in case you don't want to display them in the figure's hands. Now, for a very quick leader class comparison, here we have the Siege Galaxy upgrade Optimus Prime compared to the Siege leader class Ultra Magnus. Now, they are very different in terms of their upgraded robot mode. However, the only real similarities are once again in these leg sections. These leg sections are almost exactly the same, and these sections are actually exactly the same as this one. They just have a very different transformation, whereas on Ultra Magnus, where these sections fold out, the Galaxy upgrade Optimus Prime has no transformation with these particular pieces, so it is really just the kind of base sculpt that they've kept the same. However, the upper torso section really does look very different, and they do also scale really nicely. So overall, what do I think of this Transformers Siege leader class Galaxy upgrade Optimus Prime? Personally, I don't necessarily think that it is the best out of the Siege toy line. It is definitely a good entry, and if you don't have the original The Galaxy Force Optimus Prime, then this is definitely a nice updated remake to pick and add to your collection. However, it is rather abstract when compared to the rest of the Siege figures. None of them really look like this particular figure, and I really think that they should have waited and perhaps released this in a later line when it was more suited to harken back to the original Transformers Cybertron toy line. Personally, I would have much rather them take the original Voyager class Siege Optimus and turn that into a kind of armoured up Prime. However, I can definitely see where they were going with this particular figure, and if you're into your Transformers Cybertron collection, then you're definitely going to want this particular figure in your collection. I personally think that it's okay, and I have no problems displaying it in my collection. However, I do wish that we got a slightly different figure. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please let me know down in the comment section below, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.